And our assistant general manager Ray, I knew we were both with Les, and he was actually a more integral point person in the free agency process because of his role as the director of pro scouting at the time. But we talk about how, when Les first got there in 2012, obviously he drafted for a lot of years, and you're attacking every single position in free agency. You're trying to build the roster, and when me and Ray got here in 21, had to take the same approach, but as you kind of build the roster and get more stronger in certain areas, your process alters a little bit because you can be a little bit more. We've always been strategic and selective, but you can even be more selective than you have in the past. So we're not quite there yet where Les and the Rams are, where he really started to be very, very selective there, but me and Ray were just talking about that. We are getting there. We're getting closer.
I know it's really early in the process, but are there any positions that maybe stick out a little bit? Is it being deep or?
Yeah, I'll probably know a little bit more deeper as we get in March. I will say the work that we've done so far. I think if you're picking high in the draft, I think you're going to get a really good football player. But I think like where we're picking at, you can still get a really good player too. And we're excited about that. But in terms of positions that I think we're strong or are deep, I have an idea, but I'll keep those to the vest. Yeah, if anything, Justin, it's taught us to make sure you put even more focus in on them in terms of when you may have, not saying that we ever ignored intangibles, but maybe, if you said, he has this X amount of talent, ability, and, say that the intangibles aren't like on steroids, but, just needs a little bit of work, and you learn some lessons along the way. But I still am a firm believer that is the true separator of success at this level. I can name countless examples back from when I was with the Rams and countless examples even now within these, 3 years that we've been building. But, we look at our top players that have been really core foundational players, and they have the intangibles that we're looking for, so it's not a surprise they've had the success they've had. Yeah, well, Dave, really, them, and it's not just you drafted them and you know them, so even if they're not performing well and they're not meeting expectations, that you just keep them. No, it's that you try your best to acquire the best players. Acquire the right players through the draft, and hopefully the goal is to develop, and then once they reach a point where they're eligible to resign and you resign them, you feel really, really good about it. And that kind of brings back into the free agency aspect of that's why we always talk about how selective and strategic we do have to be in free agency, because you don't really know these players. You see what you see on film, but like I've told all of y'all, that's the easy, coherent part. Can a guy come off the foot? Oh, okay, that's easy, but you don't really know them, and so that's why you got to be real careful. But when you draft and your own guys, you feel a lot more comfortable. I'll get to your question. Go ahead.
On Jahmyr Gibbs, as far as the expectations, what was your evaluation on him? Did you feel like he's a guy that's just scratching the surface?
Yeah, my evaluation on him was exactly what he did this year. I do think he's got a lot of meat on the bone as well. I think I think I said it ad nauseum. He's a multifaceted, explosive weapon that can do a lot of different things. He's electric. I believe he's a game breaker. And I think early on, he's so conscientious and prideful. And I thought this was a real credit to him. He actually recognized that he was going a little too fast. And early on, he was going to. He's such a fast and explosive player. You know, he was almost going too fast. And once he kind of caught up to the speed of the game and realized, you know what, I know I'm fast. I trust my speed. I know I'm explosive. I don't need to go but so fast. And so then that's why I think his vision started to get a lot better. We never really had any concerns about his vision, but once he figured out the speed at which he needed to play and got up to that speed, he became the player that we thought we were going to get. And again, I think he's got a whole lot more left in the tank. Say that one more time. I don't know if it's developmental program. They just have a long-standing tradition, history of producing really good football players, and that's a credit to the coaches that they've had and the type of players that they get. Obviously, it's right down the road, so we get a lot of good exposure to those players. But you know, with a lot of those guys come out, you kind of have a sense, you kind of know what you're getting. And, you know, you do your due diligence on all of them, and I'm not saying that they're all the same, but they've done a really good job, and I'll say we're pretty fortunate to be right down the road from a program just like that.
How about the advantage from a local day, local day standpoint, kind of program right in your backyard?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an advantage just because, you know, you can get guys there that might not count against your 30 count, you know, so you can just bring guys in, and if you want to work them out, you can work them out. If you want to spend time with them, get to know them a little bit better, you can do that, just as a lot of other teams can do with other colleges, big-time programs that they're close to. I know you had a question.
So you guys have come so far so quickly. This is a great job. Is there any sense of satisfaction with it at the moment, or is the process always just keep making you want to keep striving, keep moving? And the second part of the question, real quick, when people who look like you have the success that you had, does that help people come behind you?
Yeah, well, the first part is I'm a firm believer in surrendering the results to the process. So the process will always be numero uno. I think once you start kind of relishing in your achievements, you know, I think that's when you can start, you know, you could tend to maybe take your foot off the gas and you can get yourself in big trouble. So I do think this league is too hard to ever let your foot off the gas. I've always said at length, no matter how good we get as a team, no matter how good our roster is going to get, we're always going to take this same process and keep our foot on the gas to improve as much as we can. Just to your second part of the question, it means a lot to me. Just because I look at the people that came before me, and I believe that it's a responsibility that's owed, and you want to set the right example. You want to make sure that opportunities are laid for people that's coming behind you. Yeah, Terrell, he's you know, so Terrell, I want to say that was his first position coach job. He might have been a GA at East Carolina when he got done playing, and so I believe A&T might have been his first position coach job. But Terrell, man, he's a great teacher. He's a straight shooter. He's really the first coach that really, you know, taught me the nuances of achieving what you want to achieve on the field behind the scenes. He's the one that used to bring me in and sit me down and watch tape with me all summer and kind of learn those ins and outs and developing a relationship so, you know, you can build that trust with the coach. And then when, you know, he was a great coach in terms of holding us accountable. And so you built that trust, and when we didn't do the right thing, he held us accountable. And we didn't like it all the time, but he's an excellent teacher. I'm not surprised at the success that he's had. You know, even when I was a young scout, he was in the college ranks. I want to say he was at Purdue for a while, and he produced a lot of good defensive linemen out there at coming out of Purdue at that time. And I believe I was a combine scout at the time, and that's when I really knew, like, okay, I knew that you were always a good coach, but when he was producing all those defensive linemen out of Purdue, I was like, okay, this guy's cooking with gas. But not surprised, very happy. Obviously, you know, him being my D-line coach in college is not why he's here. He's here because of his body of work.
Earlier this week, you talked about just the excitement of the challenge. 29.
Yeah.
We also know it's a little bit more difficult to move around at the top of the board, just the weight and the value of those games. Is it also exciting because of the flexibility you can move up and move down?
Yeah, I mean, I view it a lot like last year in the draft. We had those two twos kind of in the middle right there last year in the draft, and I was really excited about having those two twos just because, and exactly kind of what we did. You never know how it's going to pan out, but being able to use one to move up and get a Brian Branch, and you got the other one to kind of move down and collect more assets, and eventually get in position to get a Hendon Hooker. So that the spot that we're in, it is exciting to have that flexibility because a lot of things can happen when you're sitting back there. But again, I'm excited about being in that position. It's kind of it's not. I don't want to paint this as pressure, but you're kind of out of the top 10 beauty pageant, and you're just kind of like, look, man, let's just find the best football player.
What's Washington getting in Lance
Oh,
Newmark?
man, Lance is getting Washington's getting a really good one. And I always say in this league it's hard to keep the good ones, and Lance is about as consistent as it gets. There's certain people that you work with that they're kind of like set it and forget it guys, and guys that you trust, very reliable, very dependable, very strong evaluator, kind of man of few words, but when he speaks, it holds a lot of weight. But that was a big loss. That was a big loss losing him. Obviously, it's opportunities for others to take on more ownership and step up. But especially coming off of a year before where we lost to Dave Sears and then Lance Newmark after that. But I also understand the reality of that was a great opportunity for Lance, just as it was with Dave, and we'll be just fine. Not to undermine Lance's contributions, but they are getting a very good evaluator, a very good person, a very good human being, trusted, dependable, and very reliable.
Yeah, salary cap, Jared. I know you don't like to get too
I got you, Justin.
far into the details on that contract, but he has a crisis coming up in a couple weeks. Is it important to get something done before then? Does that matter at all?
No, we haven't really weighed that into any of our decision making. We're in alignment in the direction that we want to proceed. And again, like I told you before, once we have updates, we'll make sure you guys get it.
The cognitive testing. I don't know how much you guys use. You guys use the non-NFL one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some players said they're not going to take that. What do you miss out if they don't take that? Just in terms of the process.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're making an investment, you want the most information as possible to make you feel good that you're making a sound decision. And when you have less information, you might be a little more hesitant on pulling the trigger on making that investment. But with all that said, the representatives and the players, they're entitled to their own choices and decisions. So they have freedom to do what they want to do. But on our side, yeah, obviously, like to have the more information. Sometimes.
Brad, the salary cap increase obviously gives everyone a little bit of flexibility. I'm curious if you see it as an advantage specifically for a team like yours who's trying to really build that presence.
Yeah, it was a little surprising. I didn't know it was gonna go to where it went, but we've already made the necessary adjustments in our planning and budgeting, and I give those guys a lot of credit. Mike Disner and Brandon Sosson, they do a great job with our football admin crew, but we've already been at work and making those adjustments, and it's good flexibility to have. There's some advantages there, but again, you still got to be smart.
Similar as the front office losses to the different last year. Is it the same way of the guys internally? It's good to kind of keep going. So we did last year with Brian. I'm just wondering if you look at it overall and kind of that same way
Yeah. You definitely. It's always it's an advantage of when you can kind of keep it in house and promote from within. But sometimes guys like a Lance Newmark that had over 25 years of experience, those you might not have that in house. We have a relatively younger crew, and those guys, they're a hardworking crew that they have a lot of upside, and they're very talented as well. But sometimes you might have to look externally, but we'll just make sure that we do our due diligence, and we'll make the best decision. But yeah, it is a lot, kind of like roster building, is about drafting and signing your own, and those guys, and if you want to promote within, and we have a good development system in house currently, but we'll make the best decision going forward.
Will change it all with a lot less underclassmen? I don't know if that's NIL or just whatever the reasons. It seems like there's a lot less underclassmen.
Yeah.
How does that change the draft at all?
Yeah, I kind of was, I'm not going to say scared about that. I kind of had thoughts that might be coming, that those numbers might be dropping. With the current landscape now, I don't want to comment too much on it. I wouldn't be surprised if if those numbers drop even more next year. Obviously, traditionally, the underclassmen have been the meat of the first two rounds of the draft. So we'll just kind of see, how that kind of changes in the very end. It's a lot of work to do, but that drop in number is not a surprise, and, I don't really foresee it changing anytime soon.
How the collaboration process around this time of year between your staff and front office and
Yeah, a lot. Even it's actually, in the past, not being in the postseason, you kind of have a little bit more time to take a little more time to do all these meetings. And look, I give a lot of credit to our pro scouting department, because they've done a lot of work in the immediate, and even when we were in the postseason, to make sure that right when our season ended, that we were able to hit the ground running, which we were. But it's all collaboration, and that's how Dan and I operate. That's how it is from the very top with the Ford family and Sheila. And I just think that's the best way to operate. I think it's easier to move a couch with two people than one person, and so it takes everyone. You can't just say, well, the scouting department is going to just evaluate all these free agents, and no, like the coaches got to have buy-in too, and because once they're acquired, they're spending all their time with the coaches, so you want to have buy-in on that side too, and so but yeah, it's been a very collaborative process up to this point, and we don't see this changing.
Brad, I don't think you guys have drafted a team outside of the class this year. Is that just circumstance, or is there something that you're very particular about that let you shy away from the
Yeah, I guess if he was he was an outside corner, but again, that's you're talking about a late third round pick, so really, yeah, that would have been the highest that we've gone. That's not been intentional. Again, like you all know, everybody knows that I've talked to. We're all just going to just pick the best players. Obviously, you can't have enough corners. It's a very hard position to play. It requires so much, not only physical qualities, but intangible qualities to be successful at that position. And you might have to be a little more selective in acquiring them. And when you find a good one, they're hard to find. They're not growing on trees. Although that's arguably them and wide receivers probably the most voluminous group, position group in a draft. But that doesn't mean that they're all going to be good. So and especially as high as you might have to pick them, especially because of their physical qualities. If you get wooed by the physical qualities too much, but they don't have the intangible qualities, you get yourself in trouble. So I hope I'm answering your question, clearly. But it is kind of, I don't want to call myself a snob of, outside corners, but, I have a lot of appreciation for that position. I was a cornerback cross-check for like over a decade back with the Rams, and, I love corner play. I just love it. I could watch DB individuals all day, every day. I think it's poetry in motion. I love DB play. But, yeah, we just want to get the right fit. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's confidence. It's wiring. Those guys. I know. The money makers is ball production, and that's first and foremost. But you got to tackle too. And the more and more as you see, man, when your corners are tackling, that really can define who you are on defense. But yeah, it's those guys. The really good ones are hard to find.
Just curious, I know you're not going to name names, but are you hopeful to get a little bit more work done here before the new league year starts? Is there still things that you're kind of working on?
Yeah, we have plans in place. We're like I said, we're aligned in what we're going to do. Obviously, there's that unknown and the future and the unforeseen. So, but I think we've done a lot of work already to be ready to adjust for potentially the unknown, and if it takes a pivot here or there. But so can't make any guarantees if it's going to be at a certain time point. But we're just going to be as smart as we can be and as sound as we can be in our decision making. Yeah, Lance was he was excellent. I can't speak enough about. Someone else asked me that question. Very very passionate, very smart, very dependable, very reliable. A great evaluator. He's one of those guys that always talk about. There's some don't have to worry about guys, and he falls in that bucket because of his qualities. But Lance is a big loss, but it's a big game for Washington. Yep, thanks.